when it comes to Tekken 8, we took some numerous polls on our channel and we had questions such as what would you recommend to people that are completely new to fighting games, and people chose Tekken. I put which game is easier to learn combos, and people chose Mortal Kombat. And then I also put which rank system is better and why, and people put Tekken. Tekken 8 has now moved past its honeymoon phase, I would say, where you do have your criticisms now, your bugs, patches that need to be done. You have your fight pass. You have things that are happening still with like plugin and everything like that in ranked. Kind of ironic that I like these polls. I usually like to ask questions like that because I use it for analytics and for what people are thinking in multitudes of aspects, whether it be reading the comments and stuff like that. So make sure you're leaving comments and everything so we can always have conversations and debate like what's actually the better variation of what we need. Kind of unique that people would recommend Tekken to beginners, but also essentially deem the game like harder to learn combos. At least it's damn sure as hell harder to really build defensive tactics, counters, punishment, training, and just reads and flow charts and everything like that when it comes down to knowledge check and Tekken. So overall, the harder game, but still people would recommend it to beginners. I don't know if it's because it's a little bit more of the it's not a flawless game, right? Like what I said, it does have its ripes. It's not a great game, but it does offer some of the best continuity of what you would expect in a fighting game. There's more broken characters, there's way easier characters to pick up, and then there's also just a lot of tools that you can use from replays and punishment training, like what I said earlier, practice essentials, footage, everything like that, training lobbies, and everything you can do with your friends. So there is a lot more tools to really get into everything, the ghost battles, all that stuff, the arcade, just so much things you can do in Tekken to get better immediately. Now, what I would like to say when it comes to my input of Tekken is that the truth about Tekken, in my perspective, someone that's played it for only like 5 or 6 weeks now, I feel that Tekken is something that I would, if I was an investor, right? If you're thinking money, what, because time is, you know, time is probably way more value ever than money. But still, if I'm looking at an investment side of like why I want to invest my time into a game, I'm looking at Street Fighter 6. Of course, we're going to talk about the mainstream games. I'm looking at Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, and then I'm looking at Tekken 8. Street Fighter 6 is great. It's a great damn game. There's no way I would look away from that game. I started off on that game when it released. What did it release? Like June, I think. I did start off on that game for a little while. That's how I started streaming again. I had stopped streaming for a long time, so Street Fighter 6 really brought me back to it. I started out slowly. I did like the world tour, the story, the classic variation of Street Fighter, like just everything, quick play. Then I finally started doing a little bit of ranked, but by that time I was already getting real comfortable and all of that. Mortal Kombat 1 was already coming out in that October, so Mortal Kombat I transferred over to, and then I played that for a long time. We got to Elder God ranks, we did all of that, the story mode, all that stuff. Then I transitioned into Tekken 8 now, so which is cool. One thing is that fighting games, the newer ones, they're all available right now, right? And that's the three-headed monster that's probably building history right now. We never really had them that much back to back within a year apart. All these games, so especially these 3 games, they are monumental. Mortal Kombat not so much anymore in terms of recent days, just due to how they're doing with their activity. So that's when it goes back to when you're looking at Tekken 8, it does look like they invest more into the continuity of the game, meaning fundamentals, the core foundation, how long it's been out. Tekken 7 was out for 8 years, which is insane. So I have no clue how long Tekken 8 is going to be out for. So we'll have to be on standby for that, right? So again, timing is a lot in this game. So investing a lot of time is really cool. And then when you look at Mortal Kombat, they kind of changed a lot of their actual mechanics the last 4 games. Like 9 was pretty well, I would say MKDC was 3D, and then MK9 was back to 2D. MKX had like variations, and they also had faster gameplay. It wasn't massively different from 9, but it was still different. Then 11, they kind of took some of those MKX essentials, but then they just hindered the gameplay. But they still kept a lot of the content, crypt, all that stuff. And then they go back to MK1, which now the story mode's kind of weird in the multiverses. So all of that stuff happening, it just, long story short, their core foundation and mechanics are very hard to bring around. It kind of feels like you're almost having a fresh start every game. So Mortal Kombat, again, like in an identity crisis, So when I think of that, Street Fighter 6 has brought Street Fighters back to life 100% and mainstream the crap out of it for a little while. I mean, I like their hip-hop approach to this time around, so it's super fresh to see. So plus Street Fighter 6 helped me out a lot, man. It inspired me to get back into streaming again, and then that's what brought me back to fighting games, because the timeline of all these fighting games was perfect for me. I took a long time off of streaming, and if I was looking into an order, I would always pick Tekken 8 first. I've only been learning Tekken a little while, at least at a credible level, further than red ranks and purple rank now. I'll put Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, especially for anything, for beginners, for somebody that is looking for a well worth investment. When you're my age and you're older, you have way more responsibilities. You have so much stuff going on in life. It's hard to juggle these 3 games, especially like at a ranked virtue, unless I'm getting paid to like go to tourneys and be sponsored and all that stuff. But these games solely don't sponsor me. I do get help on my content, but I don't get sponsored from these directly. So spending too much time on these games, I feel like I don't want to feel like I'm wasting a lot. With Mortal Kombat, I did feel like I was wasting a lot. Now to this point, I do love it for what it is. It's fun, but I don't try to take it to even higher levels anymore. The only one that's well worth it, in my opinion, still is Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6. And it rightfully so, because if you think about it, in a pro competitive era, they pay the most money to their competitors over Mortal Kombat. So for me right now, Tekken 8 is a difficult game. It does have its corny shit at times, but it is far from being like something where it's just on the game right at time, because other games you'll lose due to just game mechanics at times, like, and then sometimes it is your skill issue like blended together. And so with Tekken, you get clear fights where it's like, yo, this is just a straight skill issue, whether it's frame traps, counters, punishes, just everything, bro, being completely read, knowledge checked all day. And I enjoy that more about Tekken 8. Well, Tekken 8, the difficulty of it and how depleting it is, how fast it can get depleting, is something that I like to play for a few hours, then I rotate it, and then I get back on the next day. The reason why I rotate it, because it does take a lot of brain power to play this game. And especially someone that's as new, and I mean, I'm new to the franchise. I'm not new to the game, I'm new to the franchise. So when I step in from a 2D dominated franchises my whole life, which is Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, any type of freaking fighting game that was 2D. I never really played 3D. I mean, MKDC, but I didn't even really play that game. It was so hated at the time. MKDC and MK1 right now kind of have like the same amount of hate from what I remember, but it was so long ago. And so Tekken, learning this 3D movement on top of massive defense where you actually have to hold back, and you actually have to low block, and you actually have to do certain like isolated mechanics to actually determine your winning, is very overwhelming in the coolest way possible though, which is why it's cool when we took these polls. You could see that it's like great for beginners. We'll recommend for beginners, but their combos are not necessarily easy. And it wasn't just the combo question, it was more like just overall everything, right? Mechanics of the game and how much time you need to put into it. And so therefore the truth about everything when it comes to Tekken 8, and even what the people are saying, right? Like you all are saying that it is a game that you would always recommend to beginners. I believe it goes all the way back to this learning curve. And although there has been a fight pass announced, which I think Mortal Kombat will probably start doing that shit too, maybe even Street Fighter will do that too, but now that there's a fight pass, now that there's a couple of things that need to be happening within these patches and bugs and whatever's broken at the point and what's not working, people are coming out even on the negative side of Tekken now and start actually criticizing everything that's kind of bad. But again, I came from Mortal Kombat. Tekken is still glorified versus what I'm dealing with in Mortal Kombat 1. So I can't complain half as much about versus what we have been facing in Mortal Kombat 1. At least Tekken 8 still keeps a lot of communication, a lot of, again, the learning curve does help a lot. You don't get to just wake up, stretch out, get into rank, and go all the way to the top ranks. Mortal Kombat, you can probably do that a lot easier because they do have certain characters that are top heavy characters and S tier type, while Tekken has way more broken characters. And so therefore it kind of creates a better experience. Tekken 8 reminds me in terms of like, I guess, character being broken or very strong characters like MKX. MKX had a lot of strong characters. So that made the game fun because everybody's just punishing everywhere. Everybody's just throwing things everywhere. So I give Tekken 8 that even though there is broken aspects, there's still a lot. There's enough of strong characters to combat that. And especially when you put that on top of like learning fundamentals and respecting not just frame data, that's also very fancy of course, but like actually knowledge checks, which is also fancy for saying just try to fight as many opponents as much as you can. Always try to go diverse, learn the opponent. Don't just learn the player in terms of just running sets all day and running in your lobbies, but learn actual characters that, you know, the most common denominator flowcharts. That's what you have to do. You're putting all the math together when it comes to Tekken. But yeah, that's cool. Knowledge, punishments, right? When do you know that there's a gap in certain people's strings where you can actually poke and punish? And what can you sidestep punish? And what can you do on the sidestep enough to where that sidestep is so clean to where you finally can get your turn? Instead of sidestep mash, because if you sidestep mash, technically some people's players, their moves can still track, full track if you're mashing, if their move is still in between that sidestep, right? So sidestepping is like a complete timing also. So all of that comes down to, and then on top of that, you're not even talking about the psychological part of Tekken. The psychological part of Tekken that I'm learning is like insane. If you jump into and you start sidestepping as fast as you can, you start doing things, your opponent gets kind of caught off guard at times. Like they'll probably rush you first round and they start seeing the stepping. They're like, wait a minute, they'll respect it, right? Even if they took off half your life within the first punish, which usually happens with good players, if you get up and start sidestepping, tech roll out, get up, they'll be like, oh snap, like he's like actually kind of knows what he's doing. Like, let me kind of respect it now. I got my damage off of that. And so that's what I really enjoy most about Tekken also. So despite any of these games being flawless games at the end of the day, Tekken brings this substantial amount of learning, and the only game that's fairly stayed consistent, and it's not raved about enough in my opinion, especially somebody like me that's new to this. I don't think I've heard anybody really mention how consistent Tekken has been versus the other games, at least even the three-headed monster mainstream games, which is Street Fighter and all that. Like, was it best with netcode? No, it still isn't. It's still not like, there's just nothing's gonna be flawless, and everybody's gonna have something to talk shit about. It's social media, it's the internet at the end of the day. You ain't doing shit right if you don't have criticizers, haters, doubters, and I mean that by the utmost honest truth that happens every stream. We're playing blue ranks all day and we're trying to even go further, and people are still like, you're not ready for ranked, and I'm like, you dickhead, I'm playing blue ranks. So again, people will always just kind of reach out and try to say mean things about the game, about the experience, but this game by far is a learning video game and has to be one of the most difficult games in the history of gaming. I would probably put like Apex up there, Rainbow Six Siege for sure, but Tekken has to be out there as one of the hardest franchise games for sure that I've ever played. And the amount of brain power and investment, and I'm proud of this investment, because what makes me excited going forward, especially in Tekken, or just for any one of you all in Tekken that are new, is becoming a legacy player. Like, how cool is it that you played an installment for the almost release time of 7 years, Tekken 7, or 8 years, whatever. Tekken 7 was out for 8 years. Whoever played that shit at launch all the way till now is insane amount of training. I've seen improvement in my gameplay in like 6 weeks, and I play like a few hours a day on stream. And I don't even stream every day, and I take breaks also because this game is mentally exhausting due to the mechanics, the thought process, the flowcharts, the knowledge checks, the studying you have to do on top of playing hard ass level gameplay. So all of that mixed and matched goes for brain power, emotional power when you're getting your ass kicked on losing streaks, and then like physical, actually putting it to action under pressure. There's so many variables to what makes this game insanely hard, but fucking amazing. Perfect? No. Flawless? No. But well worth the time? Hell yeah. If people are still putting time into Mortal Kombat 1, There's no reasoning as to why you would not want to play this game. Tekken 8 by far, at the end of the day, after playing these 3 mainstream games released all brand new within a year apart, not even a year apart, by far I have had the most fun, the most attentive time, the most retention time on Tekken, the most studying. I literally am always excited at night to study footage, to study things, to study counters, to study like characters, to study what's going on. Easily Tekken, man. But yeah, y'all let me know what's up. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one, man. Peace.